one. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Taco Movie Talks, Episode 7, Horror Week, with Ethan, who has a YouTube channel called Film Junkie. For anyone who just is stumbled upon this series, Ethan, why don't you tell them a little about your background as a director for short films and maybe a little bit about your movie taste as well and where to check you out.
Yeah, hello. My name is Ethan, commonly known on the internet as Film Junkie. I guess commonly. It's my tag, I guess. You find me on YouTube. I make short films. I plan to become a director very in the future. So let's hope that goes well. And I also have a letterbox, which you can also check out and look at my movie taste and maybe roast it a bit.
Yeah, I think definitely. I feel you there. I think if someone were to look at mine, I think my letterbox they would feel the same way. And I was able to put your letterbox on the last video, and I will be sure to do so on this video as well, so people can check out your lists. You definitely have a lot of
Sounds
really cool lists and really good reviews as well that people should check out.
awesome.
Yeah, so we both suggested or recommended a movie each with a horror theme, and mine was a Chinese ghost story, and you had never seen it before, and you suggested Suspiria, which I had never seen before, and I got to thank you for the recommendation because I really dug it, and it was a very good recommendation for sure.
Fantastic.
So, would you like to start with a Chinese ghost story?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'll just give a little synopsis. There is basically a dues collector who is in a town. He has the misfortune of his kind of tally book getting disrupted. So he's basically thrown out of town without anywhere to go and stumbles upon a haunted sanctuary, so to speak, with zombies, or I guess the people who had their souls sucked from them, and it kind of devolves, or maybe better put, evolves into a love story with a ghost who is one of many, and there are is a whole, I guess, universe of ghosts that he and his love interest encounter, and they are helped by another person who kind of keeps balance between the living and the dead. And they have the journey to kind of set the ghost of the woman who I don't want to butcher how it's pronounced. I think it's pronounced Shay Lee, perhaps. Does that sound right to you, Ethan?
You're referring to the lady.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's. Oh, hold on.
Sue Sin?
Yeah, yeah,
Sue.
something like Susan. Susan.
So the journey kind of they're trying to set her free in the end, and I will stop it there before we get into spoiler territory. What were your initial thoughts from this one, Ethan?
Well, it well, the first thing is that it is a horror movie, but it's definitely a mix of genres. It's a horror, but it's also a kung fu action, and it's also a romance movie, like you said. And I thought it was decent. I didn't love the film overall, but I definitely didn't hate it. It wasn't a bad movie whatsoever, but I felt some of the aspects fell flat a little bit for me.
Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat with you. I had seen it was kind of like I don't know if underground, but a lesser known movie, and I definitely wanted to try to find one that you hadn't seen, and I might refrain from doing that in the future. Although definitely, I mean, this one wasn't so bad where it's like, "Oh man, we should never do that again." I actually I enjoyed it. It definitely wasn't like the best horror movie I watched this week. And like you said, it was interesting because it had a lot going on and it was very fast paced, I think. But going back to what you said,
Yeah.
I would definitely like to go into where you kind of didn't appreciate it so much.
Mhm. Well, blending genre like that can be pretty difficult.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like this is in the same boat. This is a completely different film, obviously, but I compare this to Baby Driver because, in terms
Mm,
of like the action sequences, they're really, really solid. They're action packed, fast paced, really well shot and edited, and I really like them a lot. I also like the horror elements, kind of. I didn't find them like super scary, but it was pretty eerie.
mhm.
But the thing that kills it for me is the romance, personally. I feel like that wasn't very well developed at all, really.
I would have to agree with you there. And it's hard to mix those genres and solidify everything and I would agree with you. Like and this might sound like the dumbest thing ever, right? But I'm watching this director and the character design, the character elements, and the way the action was done, and you might hate me for saying this, but it was like if they were to have made like a Mortal Kombat-esque type movie, this director, I feel like he would be able to absolutely nail it because some of the characters were especially I think he was like the king of the mountain, like the big baddie at the very end. I thought that
Yeah,
character design was so cool. Like the jumping from tree to tree was super cool. It had
yeah,
those elements that you really like look for in a movie like that.
yeah, yeah. Um, I have never really seen Mortal Kombat. Uh, I glossed over Annihilation a little bit, and it was absolutely just terrible. But
Those older ones do not hold up super well. It's like
no,
almost just schlocky and
oh yeah,
enjoyable if you look at it from that sense.
yeah. Um, but it, this movie in a way is a bit like schlock, but I feel like it's more tastefully done than schlock
Yes.
is. The score, even the score is very 80s,
Mhm.
and you would think it would be more it'd be more traditional, perhaps.
There was, like, one part of the score that I think they kept playing. Like, I think they played it, like, 20 times, and
Yeah.
it did get a little bit annoying, but there was
Hmm.
one musical element that I absolutely loved, and it was The Swordsman, I believe, and he did the it was just like a random rap about Taoism, I think, in the
Yes,
middle, and I was
Taoism.
it was one of the highlights of the movie for me because it was just
Yeah,
completely out of left field with
yeah, that was very fun.
entertaining, I would say.
Yeah.
I definitely I liked the characters that it had. I mean, how did you feel it held up from that perspective?
Um, I with with the exception, yeah, no, I think the characters themselves work on their own.
Mhm,
They are fleshed out enough to where you can get a semblance
mhm,
of like you definitely get you definitely feel for the characters.
mhm,
Um, except for maybe the ghost lady, because her relationship with the main protagonist is what she only had, and even then, it's not like. amazing. But the swordsman is great. He's a great character.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I love when they team up at the end and to destroy the demon that's taking hold of Sin Tzu.
Yes.
Uh, that was a great moment. I love all the scenes with him.
Yeah, that final sequence was my favorite part, and I think it saved the movie. If it didn't have that so strong, I probably would have really, really regretted recommending this movie. But another thing you touched on, it felt more. You're exactly right. I feel like the swordsman had the most thoughtful motivation for everything he did,
Yeah,
more so than the main protagonist. I would even
yeah,
argue.
yeah. That's probably another weak spot is the main protagonist, I guess, is he's fine. He's
Hmm.
probably better than the ghost lady, but he doesn't really do it doesn't seem like he does much until the end.
Exact. Yeah, he's kind of ineffectual, uh, not very useful. A little bit of just a pawn for Susin. So
Yeah,
he kind of like lucks into not being like killed night one, and then just happens to kind of stumble along into this epic journey. But I mean, the swordsman kind of knows what he's doing. He has a reason for what he's doing. He knows what's going on. So he seems definitely like he's got his stuff together a lot more. And it was way more meaningful when we went into his motivations than anything else,
yeah,
really.
yeah. That was yeah.
I definitely.
Um.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, you go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say I did like the imagery, and there was some like really
Yeah,
cool. The like this. I don't even know. Would you call them zombies? Like from the beginning,
yeah,
the
yeah. I
husks.
liked those horror elements were super interesting. I really liked
Yeah,
those.
the stop motion to it was cool, and
Yeah.
there was another the demon where I think it was like a bunch of people's heads under a robe. I liked that a lot.
Mhm.
I thought that was also like pretty strong imagery. And then I liked the colors and the cinematography of it as well.
Yes. Yes. Colors. I guess colors would be our theme. Colorful foreign horror films would be our theme for this.
Absolutely. Yeah, cuz Suspiria has a lot of that going on. Um
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know what else to add. It's just a solid little horror story.
it makes me I want to check out more kung fu movies for sure.
Oh yes.
That was
Yes.
what I came out of this thinking.
Hmm.
Um,
I definitely got some for you.
I would definitely, I would definitely like that. I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5. What did you give it?
I gave this a 3 out of 5 or a 6 out of 10.
Okay, that's pretty solid. I think we're kind of right in the same mindset coming out of this. There was definitely
Yeah.
more good than bad, but there were some things that did detract from the film overall.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
You want to move on to Suspiria, or do you have anything else that comes to mind?
No, let's move on to Suspiria.
All right, all right. This one is certainly jam packed as far as things to talk about. Would you want to just give a quick summary about this film?
Yeah, sure. So, Suspiria is would you call it a horror classic? Because I'd call it a classic.
I would call it a classic as well. I wonder if it would be more classic, or it's definitely cult classic, if not just outright classic.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Suspiria was directed by one of the horror masters, Dario Argento. And it stars Jessica Harper as Susie Banyan. a dancer who moves to Berlin to join this very um, prestigious dancing school. But along the way, she starts to notice some very weird things. And as the movie goes along, she starts to realize that the weirdness of all the situations are connected to witchcraft
Mm.
and the history of the school, which is basically what it is.
Yep. And you watched the remake as well, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, I did not have time to finish it. I only watched the first hour, so I'll touch on that briefly, but I mainly want to talk about the original Suspiria.
Okay, absolutely. The only reason I bring it up is I think I was able to get a from watching that one and kind of clicking the plot, I was able to kind of follow along to this movie, and some of the elements weren't as mysterious because I had an idea of where they were going with it. S-
Yeah, yeah.
With that
Yeah, we'll get to that.
with that knowledge, I think it resonated more. Um,
Hmm.
right off the top, we mentioned this earlier, amazingly colorful and
Yes.
just masterfully directed. The camera work is
Atmospheric.
oh, absolutely. Some
Yeah,
of the shots are just immaculate. And the
yeah,
setting for this, the building they used was a very very good choice because everything it almost has its own character and it's so much going on. Um,
yeah,
your eye is never you're never going to get bored from what you're looking at.
yeah,
Certainly, and there
yeah,
was some really, I guess, graphic but very memorable scenes. And this one starts out really, really on fire as
yeah,
a student runs from the the ballet house, for lack of a better term, and comes back and then is murdered. And this
mhm,
becomes a pretty big mystery as to what happened and what is happening to the students as well.
yeah.
That entire sequence was just amazing in my mind.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I want to say that I am a massive fan of Dario Argento. I think he's one of the best horror filmmakers to ever live. I love almost all of his movies. I think he is so good at creating an atmosphere
Hmm.
and a mystery, and he's kind of Lovecraftian, where his fear comes from the mystery and the fear of the unknown. And this might be his masterpiece. I might love his film Deep Red a bit more, but I will always consider this film maybe his most classic and iconic.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Um, it was, I guess, just happenstance that you recommended this, and I think either the night before or the night before that, I had just watched Phenomena, and that was my
yes.
first entry into Dario Argento, and
Mhm.
they are both very, very interesting. Um, you can see some consistencies in what he really does well and what aspects he likes to throw in, and I would completely agree with you that the mystery of it all is what he really likes to keep the suspense going. Um,
Yeah,
and I think this is a film, and you rewatched this yourself, so I think you would be able to
yeah,
testify to this, is that,
yeah,
in my opinion, I think if I rewatch this and as time has passed, my appreciation has grown to where now I feel perhaps the rating I gave it initially, I feel like it could bump up over time or definitely
yeah.
after a rewatch. And do you feel the
No,
same
yeah,
way?
absolutely. So the last time I watched this was I did a horror marathon in 2021 and 2020. But I watched Suspiria in the 2020 marathon, and that was the last time I watched it. So it was a while.
Mhm.
But uh, when I watched it, I said, "This is really, really good." But as I started to watch more and understand more of Dario Argento, as well as understand more of horror, I gained a much bigger appreciation for Suspiria and what it did.
Hmm. I I definitely, this is one that I want to revisit for sure. Um,
Yeah,
he definitely has another unique turn that I was able to pick up on from Phenomena in this movie is that he will use insects and or maggots to absolutely make your stomach churn. Because there was another
yeah,
scene in this where they were like falling from the ceiling and it had a literal effect on me where
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Argento is just a master at giving you the heebie-jeebies,
Mhm.
whether it's whether it's the atmosphere or the mystery, or literally putting bugs in some scenes.
Yeah,
And it works to great effect because he doesn't overstate them, and it always comes across as eerie and creepy, and he knows how to use the atmosphere and everything to his advantage to make those scenes even more shocking and disturbing.
I completely agree with you. Another thing, I really thought the score in this was tops.
Yeah, it is very similar to Chinese Ghost Story. It is repetitive, but yeah, I the 70s synth is just is I love that 70s synth.
Yeah, I think it was definitely more effective in this one. It didn't
Hmm.
really begin to annoy me whatsoever. I really liked it as well. Um,
Hmm.
I wonder if you're going to have a similar effect watching when you finish the remake of Suspiria, but
Yeah,
knowing where it's going might take some of the bite out of it for you.
maybe. Well, I'll touch on the that because the remake of Suspiria is very different.
I do agree. I think there's like a whole subplot that they add to the remake
Yeah,
that they get into, and
but yeah, after watching uh in about an hour of it, I watched an hour and then I turned it off because I had to do other stuff, unfortunately. Um, I it, I don't love it nearly as much as the original.
I think the original is it's much more vivid. It's and it's much more charming, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that Suspiria, the remake of Suspiria, is almost a full hour longer than the original.
Yeah.
Um, but it does that because, well, the original Suspiria to me was all about the mystery and the atmosphere and the suspense.
Hmm.
Whereas with the remake, it's all about building character. It's all it's just what Dario Argento does is that he uses these people's professions as more of a vehicle for the suspense.
Hmm.
Like because he did another movie called Opera, which is about an opera singer who is forced by a killer to watch as he or she kills everyone around her
Oh
and
wow,
like kills all of her close friends. She has to watch all of it. It is
that's one I want to check out. That sounds good.
Yeah, it is also a great Dario Argento movie. Um, and it's all about the vehicle. It like the dancing for Suspiria has almost nothing to do with what's going on.
Yes.
Whereas with the remake, the dancing is a heavy part of the story, and it's all about character development. It's all about the characters. There's so much character development in the first hour alone.
Yeah. That is a definitely that's a very astute observation. You bringing that up, I completely agree with you. They go so much more into each like headmaster or, and we'll delve into spoiler territory now, but I guess the
Hmm.
three main witches, you get
Yeah.
a greater sense of their motivations, who they are. You get a much deeper not appreciation, but you get more backstory, I think, into the main character and
Yeah.
Tilda Swinton, I believe
Hmm.
she's in the remake, correct? Am I thinking of the right
Yeah.
actress? She's
Yeah. Yeah.
brilliant, and she also plays
Oh yeah.
the guy who has a he's the side story essentially to that.
Hmm.
So they're definitely trying to make up for an element that they can't quite replicate, which makes it effective in doing that. But in this
Yeah.
original, it can
Yeah.
really play up how unique, how creative the plot is.
Yeah. Which brings me to, I feel there are a lot of people who actually do like the remake more.
Mhm.
Um, my problem with it, first of all, the atmosphere. They took away all of the suspense and the shock out of the atmosphere and the mystery. There's no mystery, first of all.
Mhm.
Like about 30 minutes in, it gets revealed already that she's got magical powers. Uh, the Tilda Swinton's character, who by the way is great.
Mhm.
I don't really like Dakota Johnson, who plays Susie Banyan. I thought she gave kind of a wooden performance.
Yeah, and I don't know how this is going to come off, especially after what you said, but I think it's one of her best performances. I've seen parts of I've seen parts of like 50 Shades. Is my girlfriend is
Yeah,
a huge fan, and this is
I knew you were gonna bring that
this
up.
is that is light years ahead of that. But
Yeah,
yeah, she certainly is not the standout for that film.
no. Yeah, but all of the shots are super dark and depressing and macabre,
Yeah.
which takes a lot of the suspense out of most scenes. Whereas with the original Suspiria, most of the dance sequences are pretty bright and
Hmm.
colorful in like a happy way. Now
Yeah.
it's just now it's just like all dark and all macabre, which I think would work better in a different context. It shouldn't always be like light and color. It shouldn't always be juxtaposing those in the same movie. But I feel like with this movie in particular, it might have helped.
Yeah. I just from memory, yeah, you're right. It seems like the color is kind of sucked out of it, and I wonder if that was something they did to separate itself from the original because like we said, this is so colorful, like the colors are jumping off the screen and I'm never really a huge fan of that. I think it can kind of I'm not sure what effect it really has, but there's certain movies where when they suck the color out of it, it takes away from it sometimes. It's
Yeah.
almost pressing too hard on, well, let's make this like a solemn movie.
Yeah, there are moments where it does work though, like
Mhm.
The Witch. I feel like this is a movie trying to ride off of the success of how that movie was lit, because that
Mhm.
is obviously a very stark. All the colors are so desaturated and
Mhm.
gray, but that works because of the setting and because of the mood and the story that Robert Eggers set up.
Yeah. The Witch is certainly a great example of that and
Yeah,
big fan of The Witch.
very big fan.
For me, I think, and if I already kind of pounded this point home, let me know. But the middle of the movie was where it didn't drag, but it there's certainly a huge spike at the beginning, huge spike at the end, and definitely in the middle that's where you're trying to figure out what's going on, and I think the fact that I knew was maybe why the middle didn't resonate quite as much with me, and I'm wondering if you have a take on this, an opinion, whether you had a similar experience or whether you completely disagree or why.
Well, watching it back, I got more of well, the thing is that the main character in the original,
Mhm.
well, I mean, it's the same character, Susie Banyan, but Susie Banyan in the original, uh, she was kind of her classmates and her friends seemed to be more doing stuff in the second act, and she doesn't come into her own until the third act.
Mhm.
Um, um, I wouldn't necessarily disagree, but it I feel like um, it needed to be done because I guess you as an odd like hmm, because she is like asleep. She starts to get really drowsy at one point, and she just can't get out of bed.
Mhm.
And so she's that scene has to be. It feels like it kind of has to be there at some points
Mhm.
for the character to progress forward and try and stop this evil force. Um, but I do kind of get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know how you would fix it because like you said there's important information and exposition in the
Yeah.
middle. Like you couldn't just nothing would make sense without the middle, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, what themes and what symbolism were you able to kind of take away from this? Because I think there's certainly a lot to pick up on this movie.
Huh. I, I the thing is that Dario Argento is a filmmaker where he, I feel like you can explain. I can explain time and time again what he does to you and why he terrifies you.
Hmm.
But I don't know if I could say that he has like symbolism and themes that you could pick up. If you picked it up, that's great. I'd love to hear about it.
I think one of the main themes is the students who stay are kind of allured by the power and that they could come into wealth through the power they would possess.
Hmm.
And Susie rejects this. And it's like there a cost to success? That was maybe I'm reading too much into it. But I mean, would you agree with that or no?
Are you talking about the original or the remake?
I think I saw it might have been I in the original.
Oh, I see. Because I got a lot more of that in the remake, yes. I don't know if I got much of that in the original, though.
Like like when she first gets there, do you notice how like the other American is like they all talk about money here and they talk about it so freely and then
Oh, yeah.
she's talking to that like I don't know if he's a professor. I think he's a professor or a doctor who goes into witchcraft and how people join into it because it can give them like the greatest riches that they can get in life, I guess.
Are you at the beginning, or is this when she's talking to the doctor, the guy who's all about like witchcraft during like the start of the third act?
Yes, at the start of the third
Yes.
act.
Yes, yes. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
And then and this do not know anything about. It's just something I picked up and I'm like, I think there might be something to it, but it literally could just be a detail. But how the head mistresses are almost, I think they're like assigned colors from the colored flowers, like there's a red, a yellow, and a blue. Does that
Mhm.
do you think there has any meaning in that whatsoever?
Yeah, well, hmm. Well, the thing is that in terms of the flowers,
Mhm.
the you bring up the end of the movie
Mhm.
where she gets the information, flip the blue
Yeah.
one. And so when she gets into the office of the headmaster of the school, she has to flip the blue one, referring to the blue flower on the mural. That reveals the secret. So maybe there's something there. I'm not sure.
That's what I was wondering if there was any significance to how each color was, because I think the blue one refers to the very headmistress who is like the witch from when the school first very started. And
Yes.
there seemed to be, I guess maybe that's how rooms were also divvied up, because there was like the red room, and it seemed like based on what year you were in, you were
Hmm.
assigned to like a different colored room, and I didn't know if there was something to that or not.
It might just be like sorting something. That's definitely an interesting thing, though, to point out.
Yeah. Do you have any um last last comments to make on this one? This was certainly a very good one, and
Yeah,
I gave it 3.5. I know that shares the same rating as the previous one, but this one's definitely higher up. And like I said, I think
yeah,
the rating will appreciate over time, especially with a
yeah,
rewatch.
yeah. Overall, I think Suspiria, while Dario Argento's movies have a sort of cheesiness and they're they're dubbed pretty poorly, I will say. But I feel like it adds to the more surreal experience of watching a Dario Argento movie because it feels like a movie that no one else could make today, or
Hmm.
nobody could make back then. I mean, I feel like Dario Argento is just uniquely his own, and I think that's what makes him so special. This is him, I think, at some of his best and full force as a director. And I think I like Deep Red a bit more, but I love Suspiria a lot, and it changed my perspective on horror. I give it a 4.5 out of 5.
What Dario Argento movie would you suggest I watch next? Or for
Well,
and
so
also on top of that, if someone was just delving in to Dario Argento, what do you think would be a good beginner one as well?
for sure, I think if you're ever going to start with Dario Argento, just start with Suspiria. It
Mhm.
is just a classic for a reason. Um, I feel like if you want if you had just watched Suspiria and if you're looking for that true Dario Argento experience through and through, uh, the textbook or Dario Argento film I'd say would be Deep Red.
Okay.
Um, you'd probably have to buy it on DVD though.
Okay. That might be one for the future then.
Yes, sir.
I very much appreciate you recommending this, and I if you don't have one off the top of your head, that's okay. We can reconvene, but would you like to uh, kind of announce a theme that you would like to do for each of our recommendations in this coming week?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I really don't have any idea. I'll probably have to think about that.
Okay. It'll be a mystery for the theme, but I know you'll cook up something good because Kubrick was uh was yours for the last video. If you haven't seen that, check that out. So we'll get back to y'all on that. But Ethan, as always, thank you very much for joining.
Thank you as always for letting me on.
Of course. I'm looking forward to our video next week already. This was a great week for sure. Thank you again. Suspiria was good. I think I learned my
Absolutely.
lesson.
Chinese Ghost Story was very, no, it was very interesting. It was a very interesting movie.
Well, I appreciate it, and I'm glad you were able to enjoy it. Be sure to subscribe to Ethan and subscribe to this channel. I'm gonna post his letterbox. Definitely check him out. He has a lot of good lists, a lot of really good reviews on his letterbox page, and very good short filmmaker as well. So that's all, folks. Thank you again. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we will catch you all next week.